friends that need it.
Question number 8, the Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. What concerns, if any, have been expressed to him that the proposed changes to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will damage New Zealand's promotion of its international trade and foreign policy interests?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Yes, on behalf of the Minister, concerns have been expressed about aspects of the proposed changes by Ministry staff and external parties. The Minister has emphasised the need for the Ministry leadership to pay close attention to all feedback before decisions are made, and from the outset the Minister has made it clear that he will not permit changes that compromise New Zealand's foreign affairs and trade interests.
The Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr Speaker, what was his response to the head of mission who came back to Wellington this week and said that his most able and talented staff had sought references from him because they were looking for jobs outside the ministry, and the collective statement by 46 heads of mission that said that the change proposals were botched and were undermining the ministry's most important resource, its competent and committed workforce?
The Honourable Chris
On behalf
Finlayson.
of the Minister, as I said in the answer to the primary question, the Minister is very concerned to make sure that no changes affect the foreign affairs and trade capabilities of this country, and has had very useful discussions with the heads of mission when they return to Wellington, and is confident that there will be a positive outcome.
Supplementary question.
The Honourable Phil
Speaker.
Goff.
If the Minister was so concerned, why didn't he call in his frontline staff to ask them how he could improve value for money in the Ministry's spending before he wasted over $9 million on expensive consultants and a grossly inflated change office that have only come up with proposals that even he admits won't work and will damage the morale and commitment of his ministry staff?
The
On
Honourable
behalf
Chris
of the
Finlayson.
Minister, change can often be a difficult and fraught exercise, and this is a ministry that for some time, in the opinion of this government, has required restructuring and modernisation, and it is certainly not regarded as a bad use of money. It's a shame that Minister made no progress.
Order. Had the member answered the main thrust of the question, somewhat I've been less concerned about the last comment, but if I remember correctly, the main thrust of the question asked why the Minister hadn't consulted with the frontline officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade before deciding on the changes, and I didn't hear the Minister answer that main thrust of the question at all. And given where the Minister departed at the end there, I invite the Honourable Phil Goff to repeat his question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why didn't he call in his frontline staff to ask them how he could improve value for money in the ministry's spending before he wasted $9.2 million on expensive consultants and a hugely inflated change office that have simply come up with proposals that even he admits won't work and will damage the morale and the professionalism of his ministry?
Honourable Chris Finlayson.
On behalf of the Minister, as I said in the answer to the previous question, I dispute that the sum is wasted money. I said that it was a fraught process, and change and modernisation can be difficult, but I dispute that it's a waste of money. I trust I've answered the question.
I thank the Minister. The Honourable Phil
Mr
Goff.
Speaker, does he agree with the Ministry's briefing to him as incoming Minister that Europe is the world's largest economic entity, our third most important export market, a major source for us of migrants, capital, tourists and innovation, and an important political and diplomatic partner? If so, why is he now suggesting that we close nearly half of our embassies in Europe?
The Honourable Chris
Well, on
Minister.
behalf of the Minister, it would be very difficult to disagree with those propositions in the briefing to incoming ministers. The issue really is whether the resources are in the right place, and whether having an embassy in Stockholm to satisfy Helen Clark's wishes is a good use of money remains to be seen, although I would say this, that his cabinet colleague, the Attorney General, opened an embassy in Vienna some years ago because it was regarded that that was a very important place, and a jolly good time was had by all there.
The Honourable
God knows what that answer meant, Mr. Speaker, but my supplementary question is this, Mr. Speaker. How will his proposal to close Madrid, Stockholm, Rome, Warsaw and The Hague, nearly half of our total number of embassies in Europe, how will that assist his intention to have a comprehensive framework agreement with Europe, including freer trade access, and how will it assist embassies in Europe to get that message across to those individual countries?
On behalf of the Minister, what the member seems to be saying is that once an embassy is opened, it should never be shut. There should be absolutely no change. What has happened, as is illustrated by the Vienna example, is that circumstances and needs change. Embassies will be opened and embassies will be shut from time to time. That's all part of the business of running the Ministry of Foreign Affairs when one is a small country. There's nothing magical in that, but the proposition that once an embassy is opened, it should never be changed is, with respect, ridiculous.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr. Speaker, of course I never made the suggestion that once an embassy was opened, it should never be closed. What I asked him specifically was how the closure of those 5 embassies would assist in the negotiation of a comprehensive framework agreement. I had no answer to that at all, no attempt.
I think the I realise that these sort of questions is no precise answer, but the question is about a serious issue. It asked how the closure of, and it listed some embassies. I don't know whether they're actually slated for closure or not, but it asked how that would assist the development of a comprehensive framework agreement with Europe, which one understands is on the government's agenda. And the answer said, the Minister said, well, embassies just because they open doesn't mean to say they should stay open, and some open and close. But the question did ask specifically about the closure of particular embassies in relation to the development of a framework agreement with Europe, and some answer in relation to that would be helpful to the House. The Honourable Chris Minister.
Minister, as I said, needs change depending on the particular circumstances, and just because there's been an embassy in Rome since shortly after the Second World War does not mean that those particular strategic goals need to be reflected in an embassy in Rome forevermore.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to table a letter from the Minister of Foreign Affairs to the Secretary of Foreign Affairs suggesting, in addition to the proposed closure of Stockholm and Warsaw, this would call for consideration of significant downsizing or closure of The Hague, Rome and Madrid.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There's no objection. Question number 9, Simon O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions to the Associate Minister of Education and